So, welcome to another episode of Interview with a Schizophrenic. I'm your host, Duncan Tamrasinger, and today I have Casey with me from America. Hello, Casey. How are you doing?
Good, Duncan. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. It's the world's gone a bit crazy with this coronavirus, but it's fine. It's okay.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's a little stressful.
it is actually because it's a big change, really.
Yeah.
Um, we've got to remember to act in a certain way, and we can't live our normal lives. Um, but I think it's kind of good that we can disconnect from our offices or whatever we normally do that occupies us. And
Duncan, I think that's true. I think that, oh, what's that?
you carry on.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think it may cause a lot of changes in that way because people usually don't sit by themselves very long, and think
Exactly,
about things. Yeah.
exactly. And so for people who like reading, they got time to read books. People can catch up on videos they want to watch. So I think that's quite an advantage, really.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's a good way of looking at it, man.
and also, nature has got a chance to regenerate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's less pollution, less pollution.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So let's talk about. We're here to talk about your experiences with schizophrenia. So why don't you give us a little background? You had a couple of diagnoses. You had quite an interesting history, um, military history. So why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah. Well, when I was growing up, when I was very young, uh, we had a lot of horses, and then after that, I went to I kind of made a mistake and got in this school, and they were very, very, very religious and very strict, and it seems like it just kind of made me nuts. I kind of
Yeah.
they try to reform you and constantly saying, you got to change, and they're telling this to everybody, and the pressure. So when I got out of there, I got some friends that were more normal, and
Mm.
but the problem is, we experimented with different drugs here and there, not heavy, but I took some
Yeah.
LSD, and when I took the
Mm.
LSD, I just didn't have enough stability in me to handle it. I had a very bad trip, and after that, I think that's when I started spiraling off into a mentality that just was making me do all kinds of crazy things, and
Yeah.
it, yeah.
So you joined the Navy, is that correct?
Yeah, I did. And I was really paranoid, and I
You
was
already had a
very
diag- You already
what's
had a
that?
diagnosis before. You said you already
Yeah,
had a diagnosis before you joined,
yeah, that's
and
right. Because my family saw that I had a lot of problems, so we went to the mental health clinic. They said I had schizophrenia, and you know what? That was such a shock to me. It was like, what? I
mm,
mean, that was like, probably, not knowing how to handle things. That label really knocked me for a loop. I think it caused me
mm,
50% of my problems is just that going around in my head, but
Mm.
because I didn't know how to handle it, and then I was really afraid to get a job, and then I said, well, you know what, I'm just going to take a plunge. I'm gonna join the Navy, and and just see what happens, but it
Yeah.
was just like really stressful. I learned a few things. I met a lot of people, but I got kind of seen as a loner, just with
What
a lot
year?
of
What was this in the 1980s, 1970s?
yeah, that was actually like 1981.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was a different world back then as well.
it was what?
Different world. It was a different world back then as well.
Yeah, it was different, and I mean, and then the Navy itself is a different world, and it's very
Mm.
strict. And what I needed, a lot of people they have kind of a they're they're kind of just kind of going through life, and then they join the Navy, and it gives them a lot of discipline. But
Yes.
that
Yeah.
strictness was just too much for me. I had
Mm.
already been through that, and I was still trying to
Mm.
find myself. So
Mm.
it kind of didn't give me a chance to really figure out who I was. It was kind of stress added on top of stress, and it wasn't, I really relish getting off work and just going back and laying in my bed, and I just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you think it might have been because of your school that you joined the Navy? It was kind of like, in some sort of way you were looking for something like that, like what happened to your school, because
No,
do
I
you know
don't
do you know
think
what do you
so.
know
I don't think so. I really, when I finally left that school, I was so happy to be out, and I said, I never want to go through anything like that again. And I was
Yeah.
hoping that, you know, the Navy I could have just some, a little bit of freedom to uh, get myself together a little. I thought the discipline might be a little bit good because I was spending so much time just in my room and not even taking care of myself. So I
Mm.
don't know. I wasn't really looking for it. I really needed some therapy, but I just kind of just plowed through there. It just felt bad. I really felt anxious, a lot of anxiety, and and
Mm.
paranoia, and I wish there's a lot of good people in the Navy, but I just never really connected with anybody or got a very good reputation. It was kind of a tough experience, actually.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, you were probably quite young at the time. Definitely with a severe mental health condition, you kind of need to do things at your own pace. If
Yeah,
someone's telling you do this, do that, it doesn't really work well with schizophrenia. That
that's
sort of
right.
condition. It doesn't. It's not compatible. So I
Yeah,
mean, I know exactly what you mean. You
right.
you know, as schizophrenic people need that own pace and time where they can,
Exactly.
so what happened after you left the Navy? What happened then?
Well, I I was I think I kind of, in some ways I might have improved a little bit, but in some ways I might have regressed a little bit. And they let me out early, and I had to go talk to uh, this very high ranking officer. He was actually a psychologist, and he knew within 3 minutes of talking to me that I had schizophrenia. And he
Yeah,
said, "Well, what do you want to do?" He goes, "Do you want to stick around here and try to get better?" I said, "No, I don't think I can do it." I said, "I'd like to
yeah,
get out." So they let me out early with a medical discharge,
yeah.
and I kind of, after that, I mean, I drove off the base, and it was like, man, what do I do now? Yeah,
Yeah.
and I uh, I ended up working at Domino's Pizza, and
Yeah.
that was kind of fun compared to being in the Navy, and I got a little bit of enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, I
But
think a job like that can be good fun. When
yeah,
you're young, and it's something. You got freedom. You kind of less rules. You're making
y-
money. So
right,
it
yeah,
kind of can be quite good fun, really. And you
yeah,
make
yeah.
friends there as well. Do you know what I mean? It's
That's
you sort
true.
of bond, you you bond with your crewmates, your crew members. There's like a
Right.
bonding that goes on.
Yeah, that's
So
right. Yeah,
I know
but it's
exactly what you mean.
yeah, but you're still in a social environment, so it's still you're still like trying to figure things out, and you know, it's better than the Navy. Yeah, the Navy is. I don't know. There's kind of a vibe in in the military, kind of a mean. Everyone's trying to act like they're brave soldiers, and it's kind of a
Yeah,
not a very healing environment.
it's fair.
Everyone is kind of molded in the same way, so it's
Yeah.
kind of like you don't see different points of view too much because everybody is kind of molded in the same direction, and it's I don't know. It's
Brainwashing, isn't it? It's a form of brainwashing in a way, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and maybe it's only not too deep, but it's there, and it's something that
Mm.
was really kind of keeping me from finding my deeper self, and a lot. Well, I mean, look, a lot of people get out of the military that don't haven't even seen combat, and they have post traumatic stress disorder.
Yes.
So how does that
Mm.
happen? It's because the environment is kind of unnatural, I think.
Unnatural. Yeah. Yeah. So, so tell me more about what happened in the 80s and the 90s. Leading up to the present day.
Yeah, yeah. I had this. My dad was a horse trainer, and I felt
Oh
like
yes, yeah.
yeah, and I felt like I wanted to learn how to do that. So I was working. I actually started working at the racetrack at the same time that I was working at Domino's, and I wanted to learn how to
Mm.
work with the horses. But the horses are they're so natural and they're so uh,
Yeah.
in tune with nature that's why um, people like them, because
Mm.
they kind of bring you back to your natural self. But I was still very
Mm.
paranoid at the racetrack with the people and stuff. So it's kind of like everywhere I went, there was that stress with people. I never felt uh, I just always felt like people were seeing right through me and seeing a lot of bad things about me. And it just, so I was really struggling, and
You know, you know that feeling of because I can relate to that. Has that feeling decreased as you've got older? That feeling of vulnerability, the feeling as if you're thought broadcasting. Has that feeling eased off as you've got older?
yeah, you know, at the racetrack, something was building up day by day, and it got to the point where I couldn't even get out of bed. I was just too stressed, and I said, "Man,
Yeah.
okay." So I applied for disability, and I got it. And then I went. I moved to this little town, way out of town, and a very quiet place. I
Mm.
thought, man, I just got to get it together, and
Mm.
I. I ended up buying this book, and you know, I had read a lot of books,
Mm.
but it seemed like they're telling you, well, like they said, well, you should say this or you should have this attitude, but it was just too deep. My problem was much
Mm.
deeper than the books were going,
Yeah.
and yeah, so I thought, well, meditation, that must be it. So I tried to meditate. A lot.
Mm.
I've always tried to do that, but I finally got this book that really took things to a deeper level, and it taught me about the energy in your body,
Yeah.
and I started realizing, man, there's a lot of things going on inside you uh, that I wasn't really aware of, like
Mm.
all through your body, not just in your
Mm.
brain,
Mm.
And when I started looking at they call them chakras, but I don't like that word
Yeah.
because it kind of sounds like shock.
Yeah.
But when I looked at the energy centers, I realized something is very wrong here. It's
Mm.
just not it's not clear at all. It's all murky and all messed up. So I started, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of know what you mean because I recall about 20 years ago, I was living in Germany and I went out for my schizophrenia was really bad at the time. And I think my energy and my mind was totally messed up. And I was walking at night and there was a man walking with his dog. And the dog started screeching as if it was afraid of me when I was walking past. And I think it's because you could sense my aura was all, my energy signature was all mucked up.
Oh,
Do you
that's
know what I mean?
interesting.
Yeah, that was actually something that really happened. And I thought, because I was, do you know what I mean? I was hallucinating and deluded and all this sort of thing, and yeah, it was odd, man. So I
Yeah,
kind of know where you're coming from.
that's interesting. Yeah. And when you talk about animals, the interesting thing about them is that they have such natural chakras that haven't been manipulated through the years.
Yeah,
They're animals are like totally unbrainwashed, if you know what I mean.
mm,
And
yeah,
and so it's, yeah, they have a lot of psychic ability. That's because
definitely, yeah,
they're so clear.
definitely,
Their body is just like a big TV screen, and anything that's going on, they can just see it. They
yeah.
and to me that is a direction that people really overlook, uh, is like getting back to that very natural, original
And that
state.
you
Yeah,
know that state you're talking about. That's a state of high spirituality because spirit.
I think
Do you know what I
so.
mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, because it's like spirit is nature, right? It's
is
the most spiritual, the most spiritually powerful place is nature, right? Because
you
it's
know
just
what?
natural.
That I Duncan, I think you're really right. And you know what? I think there's a lot of false use of the word spiritual
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I don't really want to like um, what do you call it? I don't really want to condemn people that go to church, but
mm,
however, when they say spiritual, what are they really saying? Because you're going there, and are you really finding yourself, or are you getting mixed up with a lot of other energies that aren't really
mm,
you? So the word
yeah,
spiritual there's two different ways of looking at it.
definitely,
So
definitely.
yeah.
Why don't you tell me about your book? You wrote a book about your experiences. Why don't you tell me about that?
Okay, yeah. I started meditating with the chakras. It was
Mm,
a, it was helpful, but it was very slow. It was like,
mm,
you're trying to sort out the energy in like one of your
mm,
chakras, and
mm,
but then I got to thinking, I mean, it helped me a lot. It brought me up to a better level, but then
mm.
it occurred to me that, you know what, if I'm trying to find my true energy, how am I possibly going to find that in myself when I've been through all these things? What is really my energy? And then I thought, well, what about the energy that I had before, even before I was born, wouldn't
Yeah.
that be so? I started trying that, and the first time I tried it, it was like a really amazing thing because it's kind of like this new this energy that was kind of invisible to me for so many years. It kind of came in and started correcting some things that I never would have been able to see. And it's like, wow, because what I did is I asked myself, what was my energy before I was born? I didn't know what was going to happen when I said that, but when I closed my eyes, some very deep things started kind of shifting around, and I realized that you know what, we had so much information in us before we were born that just got stepped on and twisted and polluted. And so and I this is like it's kind of a reset button, but it kind of shows you other things to work on that really got out of whack, and it can take you back. Your mind will show you things, and if you really think about it in a logical way, when you're really young, you can get a lot of energy put into you that is uh, from your mom or your dad. And the thing is, it's really confusing your system a little bit because it's not your energy. And your mom and dad could be great people, but their energy is not supposed to be your energy. So it kind of sorts that out a little bit. It helps you see, yeah, this wasn't really what I was thinking. I had certain feelings about this situation, thinking way back, but my intuition kind of got covered up with this other energy. So it's kind of a reset button. That's the way I kind of look at it, Duncan. Yeah.
And you wrote about this in your book as well, didn't you?
Yes.
The pre.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, this kind of when you're talking about pre-birth energy, you kind of make me think about reincarnation, um, which is basically the premise that we existed before we were born. Um, do you know what I
Well,
mean?
the thing is, I mean, reincarnation. It's like the last 5 months or so, I really have had to wrestle with like the what happens to us after we die and stuff like that.
Mm,
And I've kind of just settled on myself, just for myself, is that I really don't know, man. It's like whatever happens to animals, okay, that's going to be fine with me. I Because if I say, I'm afraid of uh, where I'm going to go after I die, then I'm back into the realm of the preachers telling me what is right for me, because they're going to say, yeah, if you don't do this, then you're not going to go to the good place, and so therefore you got to listen to what I'm saying. And I just
You know,
can't
you
get
know. No, I think you kind of stumbled across the answer yourself when you're talking about the pre-birth energies. That's the same as a post-death energy. Do you know what I mean? Your
maybe
pre-birth
so. Yeah,
is the
yeah,
same as your post-death. It's the same thing, man. It's the same thing.
yeah,
So when we're living on Earth, we're matter. We're this crude matter. But when we die and before we were born, we were pure spirit. And spirit
yeah,
is our true essence.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so don't be afraid of anything, man. Don't be afraid. It's just going. It's
Right,
just the Aborigines call it. They say death is just going back home.
right.
That's what
Yeah,
that's what the Aborigines say. It's just going back
yeah,
home. you know,
Yeah.
because the Earth is, we're just here for a little while and then we go back
Yeah.
home. That's
That's
all it is,
right.
man. It's not. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not complicated, and that's all it is.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's it, man.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's so many, we would there's so many unknown things, but that's where religion steps in and says, yeah, we know the answer, but I mean,
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
man. Come on. I mean, that's why, and the another thing uh that's kind of interesting is that, and this is like the other half of my book is that, when we're given a name when we're born, that
Yeah.
name, there's some everybody is going to be totally different in this way because the name can put you when by the time we get out of high school, we've signed our name on paper 10,000 times, 10,000
Mm.
times. So um, but the name, and sometimes I ask people this. I say, "What's the difference between your name and saying an affirmation?" Now, if your name is like Trump, Donald Trump, that's like
Mm.
an affirmation to your brain.
True.
And when you're growing up,
Mm.
you're saying that 10,000 times to yourself. You formed like something in your brain that the other student next to you is not going to have that. He's going to have a totally different thing that may take
Mm.
him in a totally different direction. So if you have a lot of problems, you want to get back to a very neutral place, you got to look at your name and say, what has this done to my brain? Has it kind of complicated things and made me think in a certain pattern to keep getting in the same situation over and over again because your name keeps doing this thing. It's not giving you a chance to stop and say, hey, what am I really doing? Like,
You,
you know what I'm saying?
yeah, what I think is my take on it is slightly different, but I think when you're young, you get conditioned into a sort of mental pattern and into habitual behavior, which is you're conditioned to do it because the way your personality is and way people dominate you. And then when you get older, you can stay in that mental state or those habitual patterns. It's very difficult to break out of. It's
Yeah,
like even if like a depressed person won the lottery, they would probably stay depressed because they're so used
yeah.
to that mindset of being
Oh,
depressed.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They would just get drunk, the alcoholics, and do you know what I mean? They'd just drink loads of booze, go to casino because they would be so trapped in that mindset. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah,
But if something changes in your life, you've got to change your mindset as well. You got to say no. I know I used to think like this, but this has
yeah,
changed now. So and I
yeah,
want to progress. I want to go to the next level.
yeah,
So
yeah. And
I kind of know what you mean.
if you're like an animal, you would look at yourself and say, "Well, this is crazy. This is crazy what I'm doing. It's not helping my survival. It's not helping me
Yeah.
get along with people, but I just keep thinking in the same way." But the thing about an animal, if you have an animal mentality, you're probably not going to get super rich like some of these
Mm.
people are, because some of these people's names have made them compulsive in making money, making deals, making money. But you know what? I've met a lot of these people, and they're still trying to figure out how to be happy. And so
Yeah, because
there's a
that's
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Carry on. You carry on.
yeah, yeah. So there's a balance, it's but
The disconnect.
yeah, they're trapped in a way of thinking, and the happiness isn't there. The money is
Mm.
there, but the happiness isn't there because
Mm.
I give a lot of people rides in a taxi because I drive a
Mm.
taxi now, and
Mm.
I've driven some ultra rich people,
Mm.
and sometimes they sense that I'm kind of an open person that will listen to them,
Mm.
and some of them have told me they're just not happy, and it's like I feel bad for them. I still, I mean, not that I'm better than them, but it just seems really strange, you know. And it's like you you don't know what to say to them. I would. This is before I wrote my book. I met this one guy. He makes he started a company. He makes $30 million a year, and he told me he's just not happy. He just bought a some Ferrari, or yeah, I think a Ferrari, and his kids are embarrassed when he comes up to the school. So he's got all these
issues. Yeah.
yeah, he's just. And I told him, I said, at that time, I didn't know what else to tell him. And I said, well, man, you just got to be like a kid again. And I
That's
don't,
actually right.
yeah,
You're actually right. I agree with you. Um, having when we're young, when we're children, it is much easier to be happy. Than when you're an adult, it's more difficult to be happy. It's more of
yeah,
like an advanced subject. When you're a kid, it
yeah,
comes naturally.
right,
So
right.
but having that childlike wonder, the being when you're a child, you're grateful for such small things. Having that as an adult does make you happier, definitely. And
Yeah,
and
yeah,
just
that,
and just and appreciating what you have, appreciating. When I was a kid, I used to love the adverts on television. And when you're an adult, everybody hates the adverts, right? But when you're a kid, you go, "Oh, the adverts are the best bit, man." So yeah,
right, right. Yeah, anytime you feel everything is stale and there's no wonder in the world, then something's gone wrong, you know. And a
something's
lot
gone
of
wrong. Yeah,
lot of people are like that, and um and then but I always think like what if I was like I was picking up this guy at the hotel in a taxi, and we were pulling out, and he had his family, and he there was a Rolls Royce parked there, and he said, oh well, you'll be given rides in one of those someday. And I told him, I I turned to him and I said, you know what, I'm just like a dog. It doesn't matter uh what car I'm in, I'm still happy.
yeah, man. That's a good
he
attitude to
and
have, man.
he gave me
Yeah.
like a $15 tip because
Mm.
he never had that
But
perspective, you know. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, Casey. Let's wrap it up here.
Okay.
Tell me what's the name of your book? We can put a link in the description so people can get in touch with you if they want to read it.
Uh,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Well, you know, I've changed the title several times. I've
okay, fine.
rewritten I've rewritten it 10 times. And
Okay,
but if someone goes on my email, I'll send them the book. Just it's 20
yeah,
pages and they can read it. But I think my favorite title that I had was Psychic World.
yeah. That's a good title, man. That's a good
Yeah.
title. Hey, man. Thank you very much. It would be a great honor if you would like to come back. Maybe next year or later this year for another show, and we can have another chat. It would
Okay,
be a
sure
great honor
thing,
to if
Duncan.
you could do
Yeah,
that.
and I hope
Um,
we get a lot of people connected because you know, it's like we got to get rid of the stigma, and it's just people trying to find themselves, so they shouldn't be put down any more than anyone else. And you know,
yeah,
and
yeah,
you know what
yeah,
I'm
man.
saying?
I think it's just getting away from that fear. People people find it scary when you talk about schizophrenia. It's scary
Yeah,
for us as well, but like normal
yeah,
people, they don't like it. They get scared,
yeah,
and I think if we can show that we're just normal people, that we're struggling with something, and there's a beautiful
yeah,
side to it. There might be an
yeah,
ugly
yeah.
side to it as well, but it's all about it's just a real human experience, and
Yes,
we would like to talk about it more, that because
right.
it's a
Yeah,
large part of our lives. So yeah, I
yeah.
know
You got
exactly where you're coming from.
okay, Duncan. Man, I appreciate what you're doing, man.
Okay. Thank you very much, Casey.
Thank you.